Sup YouTube, Tristan Blaze, back again. I ran into a little bit of an issue. Remember my last deck tech with my Manaless Dredge with Dryad Arbor, I said I was planning to do goblins post-Thanksgiving. Well, I woke up on Thanksgiving, and what do you know? My furnace broke. And I got an estimate for about $3,500. So I had to put that off. I had to put goblins off for at least a few months to get the furnace dealt with. But I do have a few other deck techs that I could go through. I wanted to save these for after Christmas, post New Year's. But here is a Budget Doomsday deck. That's right, a Budget Doomsday combo. Now this is the main. We're going to go into the sideboard after this part. This is going to be a long video probably, because then we're going to go into how to design piles for this deck, how to play through it, how to get a little like a +1 storm count here or there. So it's going to be a little bit longer than normal. But this is a Budget Doomsday deck, and it is under $200, and we are running Burning Wishes. So let's start. Our engine is going to be our Burning Wishes and Doomsday. Grab any sorcery in our sideboard from Burning Wish, and then with Doomsday, pay half your life rounded up, search your library and graveyard for 5 cards, make a new library with those 5 cards in any order. And you lose life. Now you lose life upon resolution, so if Doomsday is countered, even though the card says pay half your life rounded up, that's only on resolution. So if it's countered, you don't pay half your life. Just FYI. And then of course, our Tendrils of Agony for the kill. Why am I running Tendrils of Agony in the main instead of in the sideboard like a normal Doomsday deck would? Well, there's actually 3 words that would describe why. Lion's Eye Diamond. We don't run it in this deck. So I gotta have it in the main. There is one in the sideboard in case you can add that +1 storm in your pile with Burning Wish at the bottom of the pile. But it's in here because normally you're not going to get it. We got our protection spells. We got our 4 copies of Duress and 3 copies of Inquisition. Simply clear a path and see what our opponent has, see what type of hate we got to play through if possible, or just get that piece of hate out of their hand. Our rituals, 4 Cabal rituals, 4 Dark Rituals, and 4 Rite of Flames. Now, Cabal Ritual is okay, but it really shines when you get Threshold, because you get like 2 Cabal Rituals and you have Threshold, you get 10 black mana. So it's like, it's nuts. You're like, oh yeah, I have enough black mana to go, completely crazy on you. Cast your Doomsday, float a bunch of black mana, and go into your pile. Now, to draw into our pile, we have our cantrips that allow us to start our pile, which is Manamorphose, which is 1, very good to just cantrip into the pile, but also it's good to fix mana. You need a blue, or you need a red mana, and you have only a green, you can use that and just switch the mana and have whatever you need. Then, of course, Ponder. Normally, Ponder is better in the early games, like turn 2 or 3, possibly. Check the top 3 cards. Oh, there's nothing there that I need. Shuffle them away and hopefully draw something better. And, of course, Probe. Being free, obviously, it's really good because I can see my opponent's hand. Oh, he has no counter magic. I can go off this turn. Or he has counter magic, or he has, say, a piece of hate that he's probably going to drop next turn. You can plan accordingly. Now, post-Doomsday, it allows you to freely draw into your pile, but sometimes the 2 life payment is going to be too much. So, you may need a blue, you may not need a blue. It just depends on how the situation post-Doomsday looks. Once you have your pile, you can use a Night's Whisper in there, or you could use a Meditate. I predominantly use Meditate because it's just I cantrip and there's 4 cards left, and then I cast Meditate, draw my pile, and that's it. And Chain of Vapor. This is a dual function card. One, get rid of a piece of hate, or it allows me to add more to my storm count, and I'll get into that later in the deck tech. But the reason why I'm running Chain instead of Void Snare is for the simple fact that it has a dual purpose. Bounce that piece of hate, maybe Gaddock Teague, maybe a Leyline of Sanctity, something to that effect that would really just ruin the combo, but also add more to my storm if needed. And of course we have our mana base. This is where it gets really interesting. The Sackland mana base from Invasion Block. We have our Ancient Springs, Sulfur Vents, Geothermal Crevices. We have our 2 Gemstone Mines and 4 Lotus Petals. Now, why did I pick these lands? We have blue on the Ancient Spring. That allows me to hardcast Ponder, hardcast Gitaxian Probe, but also taps for, but also sacrifices for white and black. White, not really concerned with. Black is where I'm concerned with because it gives me the ability to go with a Cabal Writ or a Dark Writ. Same thing with Sulfur Vent. I got black that I can tap it for, so I can fire off Duress, Inquisition, a hard cast a Dark Writ even without sacking it. And then the blue and red that I can then sacrifice it to. Can use that for Burning Wish, Manamorphose, Rite of Flame, Meditate, Chain of Vapor, what have you. Geothermal Crevice adds red, so I can go Rite of Flame, Burning Wish, and then pass the turn, getting the Doomsday from the sideboard, or a particular piece of hate from the sideboard. And then it also sacks for green and black. Black, of course, being utilized with Dark Writ, Cabal Writ, Cabal Writ. I keep getting Cabal Writ and Cabal Therapy mixed up, man. And I know they're from the same block, too, which is staggeringly hilarious. But the green also allows you to use Manamorphose to once again draw into your pile post-Doomsday. Gemstone Mine being, well, basically a City of Brass that causes no pain, as well as Lotus Petal being, well, free mana, +1 to your storm count, and what mana do you need you can have. So this is your main deck. You're going to want to generate a storm count, Doomsday, and then continue on. But what is our Burning Wish board going to be? That is where the deck gets really hilarious. And yes, again, this deck is still under $200 because you're going to see the Wish board and you're going to be like, wow, one of those cards is expensive, but stay with me on this one. All right, now the Burning Wish board. The Burning Wish board is a wish board, but also an actual sideboard. One to the left are the cards that you're not going to board, and you're not going to board these cards in. These are always going to stay in your sideboard. That's what you're going to wish for. You're going to wish for hate. You're going to wish for your engine, combo piece, or well, not combo piece, but basically kill card. And to the right is going to be cards you actually will board in because you cannot Burning Wish for them. And yes, that is an Emrakul and a Shelldock Isle. Again, the deck is still under $200. So let's get into the sideboard. One, another Tendrils of Agony. Just in the off chance that you can add an extra 1 storm by having the 4 mana, 2 black, 2 colorless, to hardcast the Tendrils of Agony, and at least 1 colorless and a red left over once you've gone through your pile, you can Burning Wish for it like a traditional Doomsday deck. Empty the Warrens. There are certain situations where going for the Tendril kill is not going to be viable. What do you mean? Well, maybe your opponent's playing a life gain deck. Maybe your opponent's playing some Legacy port of Modern Soul Sisters. I don't know. I've seen crazy stuff in Legacy. Maybe he's at 40 life. Well, we're not going to get to a 20 storm count with this deck unless we go maybe like 10 turns into the game. And not running a creature, they're just going to beat us down with whatever they have, and that's it. That's the game. So, sometimes it's more viable to simply Burning Wish for Empty the Warrens, have a storm count of around like 10, 11, create 20, 22 goblins, and then at the bottom of our pile, have a Doomsday so we can recast Doomsday and make a new 5-card library so we don't deck ourselves and give us 5 turns to kill our opponent with a bunch of goblins. That's a really good reason why it's there. It's never come up for me. It never really has. But you never know. So I have it there. Another Doomsday, simply, maybe you don't have it in your hand, but you got a Burning Wish. So you grab it. Infernal Contract. Yes, eventually I will plan to make, I will be making Spanish Inquisition. I will be making that combo, but not right now. Originally, this was in the main deck, and I had 1 Duress in the sideboard. The problem was, I ended up having the ability to Doomsday and not draw into my pile, but I had a Burning Wish in my hand. So I put Infernal Contract in the sideboard. Now, understand the differences between running Infernal Contract versus Gitaxian Probe post-Doomsday. If you Doomsday at 4 life, you go down to 2. You cannot make the payment for Gitaxian Probe unless you're paying blue mana. However, you can still play Infernal Contract. And since this deck is really good at generating black mana more so than blue, Burning Wishing for an Infernal Contract, you draw your 4, you go down to 1 life, and you can then set yourself up to generate more mana and a higher storm count to tendrils your opponent for lethal. So that's why it ended up in the board versus the main. Now some pieces of hate. Fire Spout. This is a budgetary replacement. If you wanted to go a bit more expensive, not massively more, you could run Virtue's Ruin, because it takes out a lot of the hate that we normally would see. Take out your Gaddock Teague, take out Thalia, Aether Sworn Canonist, what have you. But it does not take out Magus of the Moon. There's a problem. It doesn't take that out, which does tend to be a bit of an issue if you're going to run up against a lot of like Dragon Stompy, all in red, and just crazy red decks like that. So Fire Spout is great. It can take a lot of creatures down. It's relatively easy to get both green and red if you need it in this deck. So you could basically almost do like a board wipe with some decks. Like Delver, you could almost like wipe the board with them. Then we got Tranquility. I run Tranquility simply because the deck can generate green mana a bit more than white. You could use Parceline, I believe, from the Innistrad block, which is same mana cost, just 2 colorless and a white, destroy all enchantments, but you gain a life for every enchantment. That being said, the life gain normally isn't going to be a lot, because at best, you're probably just going to take out 4 Ley Lines of Sanctity. So you'll gain 4 life, which gives you an extra 2 life post-Doomsday, which, okay, for a Gitaxian Probe stack, yes, I could see that as being a necessary component, but the odds of you nuking 4 Ley Lines of Sanctity right off the bat is relatively rare. You know, plus I didn't have Parceline, I have Tranquility because I like Tranquility. it just sounds better. For the artifact hate, for random in the board. But yeah, Pithing Needle, but also things like Aether Vial. You know, somebody Aether Vials in a Gaddock Teeg, or Aether Vials in a Thalia, and it kind of messes up your plan a bit, because now, okay, you got to get rid of Gaddock Teeg before you can play your kill condition, like Tendrils of Agony, because you can't play 4 mana cost spells now. So it is there for the artifact hate. It's not the greatest, but it's there. And then we got our Emrakul Shelldock Isle. I know what you're thinking. Do you take the extra turn? Yes, you do take the extra turn, because technically you're playing the spell. So you Doomsday, drop your Shelldock Isle, hide away your Emrakul, and then untap, activate Shelldock Isle, cast Emrakul, and then you take your extra turn. That's a way to play the deck. That's another kill condition, another way to win. I have Serenity, simply if I have to run up against decks that have both artifacts and enchantments. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be burning 2 wishes, and then having to burn 2 other spells, Tranquility and Meltdown, whereas Serenity is just, okay, I'm just going to drop it and wait a turn and blow the board up. It's not the greatest, but for a budget variant, it's relatively potent. That being said, this might get cut for something else. 1 extra Chain of Vapor, just in case I need more bounce in the main, or if I want to do some really crazy, you know, Chain of Vapor, sack my own land, bounce a permanent of mine, and just keep adding storm counts. That's there. And for Death and Taxes, 3 Dread of Nights. Just kill your Thalia. Just Thalia can't hit play. Just, nope, not going to happen. But it does not hit Aethersworn Canonist. Canonist is a 1 toughness now, but she's not dead yet. So if you want to kill Canonist, you got to have 2 of these in play. So, here's the board. Now we're going to move into the actual piles. Post-Doomsday, what you would run. Alright, now we're back, and we are going to discuss building a Doomsday pile. It's turn 3. We have a Geothermal Crevice, tapping for red, sacking for black and green, an Ancient Spring, tapping for blue, sacking for white and black in play, as well as a Ponder that has been previously played and a Gitaxian Probe in the yard. Our life total is 18. Our hand is Rite of Flame, Dark Writ, Gitaxian Probe, Doomsday, another Ancient Spring, and Manamorphose. Once again, this is turn 3. We are going to win the game. We are going to generate a Tendrils of Agony for 20. How do you do it? Sacrifice your Geothermal Crevice. 1 green. 1 black mana in the pool. I strongly recommend having dice colored so you know exactly what mana is in your pool of what color. Sacrifice Ancient Spring, 1 white, another black. Play our Dark Writ, go down to 1, add 3, so we have 4 black, yellow die, storm count of 1. Play our Manamorphose, turning green and white into 1 blue, 1 red, storm count of 2. Draw the card, draw our Ponder, Rite of Flame, go to 2, 3 spells for the turn. Now we're going to Doomsday. We Doomsday. Now we were at 18, now we're at 9, and we're at 4 cards. Now, Doomsday does not go to the graveyard until the spell resolves. So, what do? You have a total of 1 black, 2 red, and 1 blue. 4 spells have been played for the storm count. Here's how we build the stack. Go Lotus Petal, Meditate, Dark Writ, Dark Writ. Wow, those Burning Wishes got clumped together in shuffling. Holy crap. And a Tendrils of Agony. How we arrange it is Meditate on top, Petal, Writ, Writ, Tendrils. We're at 9 life. This is our new library. Pay 2 life, Gataxian Probe. Now we're at 7. Played that. 6 Storm Count. Meditate. 9 Storm Count. Draw 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lotus Petal. Counts as a spell. 7. Going to Dark Writ. Go to 3 black. 8 spells played for the turn. Dark Writ. Go to 9. Down to 2. Add. Boom. There's 5. Tendrils of Agony. 18 damage for the Storm copies. 2 for the original. We Tendrils of Agony for 20. That's on turn 3. That is the normal stack, or the normal pile, I'm sorry. The normal pile you're going to do is you're going to have a Meditate and some form of cantrip, either a Probe, a Ponder, or a Manamorphose. That's going to be your go-to stack. That's the go-to. Or sorry, I keep saying stack for some reason. I don't know why. That's your go-to pile for Doomsday. Doomsday is a very complicated build. When I get the full build finished, there's over, I think there's 352 variants of piles for Doomsday. I will go over every single one of them if you want me to, once I finish the deck. But in reality, the majority of the time, you're going to go through maybe 3 to 4 different piles, maybe 5, for 90-95% of all of your games. Alright, so we're going to go through one more. We're going to go through a few more piles, and then we are going to call this video done, because trust me, you got to play it and have some hilarity behind it. It's just hilarious. Sometimes you're going to end up in a situation where you play what is called a pass the turn pile. Now, playing against certain decks, they will deal a lot of damage to themselves. I've seen decks go turn 1 Gataxian Probe, then fetch land, then turn 2 another fetch land after a Brainstorm, predominantly in Delver builds. But by turn 2, they're down to 16 life. If they don't have any counter magic, are you able to win on turn 2? Yes, but it's called a pass the turn pile. We're not legitimately just going to combo out in one turn. We're going to pass the turn. We got our Gemstone Mine with 3 counters on it. Sulfur Vent, tapping for black, sacrificing for blue and red. How are we going to win? Here's how we're going to win. We got Dark Writ, 2 Manamorphose, and a Doomsday in our hand. We're gonna cast Dark Writ. We're gonna play Doomsday. Alright? Now, we're gonna build a pile off of it. We're gonna go double Dark Writ, a Burning Wish, and double Manamorphose. Get the last, oh, there it is. Last 2 copies. And then we're going to pass the turn. And we're going to build the pile. Dark Writs on top. Manamorphose in the middle. Burning Wish as the last card. That is our pile. We're going to go. We're going to untap. Once again, our opponent is playing a deck that made him at 16 life. It is not very uncommon. Fetch lands, Force of Wills, cards like Gataxian Probe are in a lot of decks now, especially Delver builds. So it's not a very, very unreasonable conclusion to believe you might face a deck like that, where they do enough damage to let you do your job a lot easier. So we draw our Dark Ritual. Okay. Sacrifice our Sulfur Vent. Blue and a red. Play Manamorphose. 1 spell. Draw the Dark Writ. Play Manamorphose. 2 spells. Draw the other one. Play it again. 3 spells. Draw it. Play it again. There's 4 spells played this turn. We've drawn our Burning Wish. Now, take the mining counter off. Give me 1 black. Add 3. 5 spells played. Give me another Dark Writ. Now it's down to 2. Go up to 5. We played 6 spells this turn. That's 12 damage if we were to kill him now. We're going to Burning Wish. Bring the storm count to 7. Remove that from the game, please. Floating 5, Tendrils of Agony, 2 damage, or 2 life, plus an additional 14. This is a pass the turn pile. When your opponent's playing a deck like that, if you maybe you Gitaxian probe them the turn before, you see they have no counter magic. There you go. There's a pass the turn pile that deals 16 to your opponent. Well, tendrils of 16 to your opponent. There's another pile that you need to practice. You need to practice how to do it, how to make the pile. I still make the pile, and then halfway through going through the pile, I say to myself, crap, I miscounted. I don't have the mana to do this. And I just, okay, scoop and just reshuffle. You're going to goldfish this deck over and over and over again until you literally have a migraine. And it is an incredibly fun deck. Let's mix these up now. So now we're going to come back with the Emrakul deck. Or the Emrakul pile. We're going to show you how to play that. This is going to be a post-board pile, games 2 and 3, you would say. Alright, here is the Emrakul pile. This is going to be a turn 4 pile. Normally, turn 4 is a bit better. We've boarded in Shelldock Isle and Emrakul, boarded out Night's Whisper, and Meditate for this, because we're not going to be digging into our pile the way we normally would. We don't need these cards. Now, it's going to be turn 4. We have a Sulfur Vent in play, tap for black, sack for blue and red, Ancient Spring, tap for blue, sack for white and black, Geothermal Crevice, tap for red, sack for green and black. We are going to untap and take our 4th turn. Now, we've used our Ancient Spring to ponder, we've then Gitaxian Probe, we've then Duressed on turn 2. Turn 3, we laid the Geothermal Crevice. We know our opponent's not playing anything blue related, anything related to counter magic, so we have the ability to go off. Or you would have used Duress to pick something out of their hand that probably would be a problem. So we're going to untap, draw Duress. That's beautiful. That's crazy. Okay, green and black in the pool. And we're going to crack that. I'm going to go black and white. Now we can Duress right now just to clear the path again. And then Dark Writ, still having the Sulfur Vent available. Then we're going to Doomsday. Now, what are you going to make your pile? Now remember, we haven't played a land this turn. So obviously, we're going to have a Gemstone Mine just for the lulls. But Shelldock Isle is what we're really looking for. And there's our Emmy. And normally I would go with another Duress just in case. And how we situate the pile, Shelldock Isle, Emrakul. I always go with Gemstone Mine. And then, oh no, wait, I don't want Duress. I'm sorry, I forgot. I'm not running Duress in that pile. Once again, it's confusing sometimes. you always want to have a little bit of safety. You want another Doomsday just in case. Not duress, Doomsday. So you want to go Sheldock Isle, Emrakul, Gemstone Mine, Dark Writ, Doomsday. That's gone. Alright, there's the pile. Top to bottom. Use Manamorphose, make 2 blue. Who gives a crap? Not going to spend it. Sheldock comes into play. Look at the top 4 cards. Well, I'll pick this one. There we go. Pass the turn. Okay. Draw. Mining counters on Gemstone Mine. Tap for blue. Boom. Activate. Emrakul. Now, we take the extra turn. Draw our Dark Writ. Swing for 15. Next turn, we draw our Doomsday. Swing for 15. Now, normally that will kill your opponent. Those 2 hits, the Annihilator trigger will probably take everything off of his board. But, if not, you have the ability to Doomsday again. This gives you the ability to now, you would Dark Writ and then Doomsday. It gives you the ability to shuffle at least those 3 cards back into your deck. Well, basically make a brand new deck out of those 3 cards, giving you another 3 turns to beat with Emrakul. It's a possibility that may come up, and you should be aware of it when playing Doomsday. It's not always going to happen. Normally, an Emrakul beat is just like, okay, I just dropped Emrakul on turn 4. And I take my extra turn. You normally those 6 permanents are probably all you have, unless you have a really good token generator online. Like, unless you've gone nuts with, like, Thopter Foundry, Sword of the Meek, or Young Pyromancer, or just anything in general, you don't have a lot of permanents in play at that point, so you're probably dead. But in case, make the pile with a Dark Writ and a Doomsday, just so you have a few more turns to basically just beat face with Emrakul. Alright, and we're back. Now, what we're going to explain here is, post-Doomsday, how to deal with a little bit of hate, but also to add a few to your add basically a few more spells to your storm count. What we're in a situation where we have the mana available to cast Tendrils of Agony. Our storm count is at 7. We're only able to deal 16 damage to our opponent, but they're at 20, so that's not going to kill them. On top of that, we got Gaddock Teeg on our opponent's side. We can't play Tendrils of Agony. So, how are we going to do this with just these 2 spells in our hand? How are we going to deal with hate and add storm count? We're going to go blue with Chain of Vapor. Bounce the Lotus Petal back. Sack the land. Copy the spell. Bounce the Lotus Petal back. Sack the land. Copy the spell. Bounce Gaddock Teeg back to our opponent's hand. The hate has been dealt with. We've added 1 to the storm, now 2, now 3, and because we were floating, we have the ability to clearly Tendrils of Agony our opponent. Certain situations, that is going to matter. The Chain of Vapor, sack a land, copy it on a Lotus Petal, it's going to matter in some situations, because this is basically 0 mana for an extra 2 life that you can drain from your opponent. So, that works inherently well when you have to deal with it. Plus, bouncing problematic permanents like Gaddock Teeg, or say, a Leyline of Sanctity. If you don't have the mana to Burning Wish for your hate card, like Tranquility or Fire Spout, it gives you the ability to just, for 1 blue, just get rid of it. There you go. Problem solved. Normally, your opponent, if they know you're playing Doomsday, they're not going to copy it, because if these are the only non-land permanents, they know you're just going to recast them and have a higher storm count. So you can copy it, bounce your own stuff back, and add more to your storm count, giving you the ability to do more with basically the same amount of resources. This is a very, very fun deck to play. Once again, it is very, very cheap compared to other decks in Legacy that are combo based, especially when you're running 4 Burning Wishes. You got your Doomsday, you got your Emrakul, you got your Wishboard. It's a good starter deck for an individual who wants to develop a Doomsday deck but doesn't want to spend $400 just for the LEDs, $100 for the 4 Sensei's Divining Tops, and then let's not forget your duels and your fetches. It teaches you how to basically build a pile, how to work through a problem, and more or less how to abuse this really beautiful card that came out of Weatherlight. I recommend it for a budget build. If it's very, very tough to play, Doomsday isn't for you, and you only spent $200 on it. It could be worse. You could have gotten the full powered 4 LED duel and just were like, oh my god, I wasted all my money on this. And then, well, you don't play blue-green and you have a blue-green duel. So you got to find a guy to trade it, and then you got to get a good trade for it. And getting good trades is hard sometimes. That's why I don't trade. But it's a great deck. It's amazing. Once I build the actual deck, like the real hardcore, duels and fetches and LEDs and all the insanity, I'm going to go through, there's an Excel spreadsheet, you can find it online. It goes through every single Doomsday pile, what your storm count is, how many Burning Wish targets you have, what they are, what needs to be in your deck, how to build your pile, what card goes where in your pile, and it is just insane. There's like 352 piles. And what I want to do is I want to go through like 1 or 2 of those piles a week, because I've already finished with the Wonderful World of Legacy Dredge, so now it's going to be the Wonderful World of Legacy Doomsday. And I'm going to start that, not exactly New Year's. I'm probably going to start that around late February, early March, possibly. It just depends on the financial situation I'm in, because again, I have a furnace that costs $3,500, so yeah, I gotta deal with that first. But anyways, peace out. Legacy Doomsday, budget $200 or less. I go through TCG.com to buy my cards. That's where I get them. That's where I bought this deck. It was cheap, and it was effective.